Good morning, people, or hello, it's morning here. It's Sunday morning in Sweden. Welcome back to my computer. This is Christian. This is Fusion Fix 60, and this is another hexagon pattern, in this case parametric once again. This is a circular one. We can change the size. And the interesting part, of course, if we change the size, as always, Fusion needs to think, because Fusion hates pattern in most cases. And yeah, it starts thinking. The thing with this pattern, of course, is that it only does full hexagon cuts. It doesn't do partial cuts. You can see the hexagons are full. They are not cutting and doing, yeah, you see the size change, and the hexagons are like placed so that they don't go outside a limit, which I have, which is, of course, a hidden circle, which you can't see right now. Or we can also change the size of the hexagons. The less hexagons, the faster the pattern, and we're going to use that when we design later. So this also works on a rectangular part. In this case, this is much heavier computational for Fusion, so I will not go through this. We can change the size to do is 100. So in this case, is limited by a hidden smaller rectangle below. Let Fusion do the calculations. Waiting for Fusion. That's something you get used to if you do patterns. And of course we can do bigger hexagons and so far and change the wall thickness. Let's see if this works, this demonstration. So what I'm using here is a failure state of patterns. I'm going to remove these two because I want to get more memory for this. So I've saved the file and I create a component, and as I said, I'm using a failure state of a pattern to make so it fails, and because it fails, it doesn't do the cut extrude with a cut option. So this is not in any way a recommended workflow. So I'm going to make the grid my active component. So I'm doing things that sometimes I'm talking. So this is not a beginner's tutorial. You need to know your way around Fusion, because the most things we're going to talk about is setting up the pattern and stuff. So we're going to do some parameters. For ease, I'm going to use a radius, give me diameter to just do 60 millimeters, so that's going to radius of a round part. It can be like in model earlier, there was a little bit rounded shell or something. If you only do one off, you can forget about this here, but if you want to be able to change the size of things, you need this, because we're going to use that in our setup in parameters. We gonna do hexagons, of course. We do hexagons. We could do circles too. Hexagon width. I'm going to make it quite large to start with, because the less instances in the pattern, the easier for Fusion to calculate. And we're going to do, I'm going to call it walls. It's basically the distance from hexagon to hexagon. Let's do it 2 millimeters for now. So we have some basic parameters. We can split this up into multiple sketches, but I will do it all in one sketch. Let's open up this sketch. There, I will by mistake started the sketch here, so I can just first sketch. We're going to start off with a circle for our part, and this is of course going to be, no, we're just going to do a circle. Gonna do D for dimension, right click and change this to radius, and use our radius parameter like that. I'm using radius parameter, but it's easier to calculate later the amount of hexagons we need. I'm gonna put the hexagons and everything in the same sketch, or no, I'm gonna put them in another sketch. So you can, yeah, you can do this with however you want. This is just showing you the workflow. So first of all, we're gonna do, which direction am I on? I'm doing this for right, sorry. We do that. We're going to remove that sketch. We're going to create a new sketch. Let's start over, people. We create a new sketch. We're going to do it from the top. That's some old sketch that's lying around the file. Now we're looking from the top. We're going to do a circle once again. Sorry for repeating things. D for dimension. Right click, change to radius, and use our radius parameter. We'll finish sketch. Going to extrude this. Let's do it. Yeah, we can add some fillet. Let's do that. Let's change the way I thought of doing things. Let's do this 20 millimeters high. We're going to give it a taper angle of -10 degrees. And we're going to do a fillet up here. Let's do it a 10 millimeter fillet. So we have something like this, and we're going to do a shell. So now as I'm doing this, I'm changing my thinking as usual. Why do I do this thing? So we have some type of shelvings like this, and we want to put hexagons inside of this here. We don't want hexagons out on this filler part here. Up to you how you want to design it. So we're gonna need a sketch, but we're gonna cut the hexagons. We already have our parameter set up. So I'm gonna do an offset plane. I'm gonna use meridian plane here and just move it up. I want this to be above, so let's do 60 millimeters. Going to create a sketch on our new construction plane. We can for now hide that sketch and hide that bodied. Create polygon. We're going to do a polygon at the center. We want to work from the center, makes things much easier. And I make a second polygon here. Both of these, I'm going to do a vertical constraint here. I'm going to tell the Fusion that these sides are supposed to be equal. They're going to be the same size. I'm going to do a line. I'm going to turn on to construction. And add a horizontal constraint. So now we can add some dimension. We'd had our hexagon width and our hexagon wall. That's going to be the distance between here. So let's have a look at this. Turn on our body. Why am I doing two hexagons? Yes, I'm going to cut the first one here. That's nothing strange. And then I'm going to do this, and I'm going to pattern on this. Because if I do a pattern on this, I'm going to only do 1/6 of one section of the hexagon. So you can see we have one vector going out here and we have one vector going in this direction. So if I do the hexagon cutouts here, I can simply use a circular pattern and create the rest of them. We reduce the load on Fusion a lot. But if I do the pattern from the center straight out here and then out here, when I do the circular pattern, some cutouts, these here and these here, are going to get on top of each other, and Fusion will fail and cry and give us a red warning and do stupid stuff. So we are going to create this here and then this one, and we're going to pattern this here, and then it's enough so we can do a circular pattern. We need one more line. Gonna hide the body for now, again, a bit easier to see. Construction line once again. We can do both lines here. These are going to be our pattern direction for this hexagon, which is a bit easier to have them in the correct place. So that's that. Home view, like that. Let's zoom out, look at the body. So we have these here. Now we need our little thing that stops the pattern from crashing. So we're going to do another construction plane. We could, I don't really need it. If your body is flat to the origin plane of a component down here, you might want to do an offset plane a bit lower, but I can now use this here. So we can create a sketch on this here. I will turn around so I can look at things. So the thing I said, I didn't want the hexagons to go outside of this edge here. So I will project in this edge here, like that. And yes, we could do them all the way out, but yeah, I want to add O for offset and do a -2 mm offset. This is optional. I'm going to turn this into construction lines to make things a bit easier to see. Everybody, you can see I have a simple circle down here. I did a small offset, so I get the hexagon slightly off the side. That's a design intent you can change if you want. Gonna finish sketch and simply go over to surface, create a patch and patch here and hit OK. Yes, I know it's invisible. Gonna turn off one of the bodies, open up and hide this here. So this is how far we come. We're gonna hide the origin point of a component. And we can turn off this. Step 1, extrude. We need to do 2 extrudes. We're going to start with one in the center, extrude. Distance, we're going to do 2 object. Select our little body down here. We can select it in the browser, like that. It's going to be a cut, yes. And once again, extrude. This profile, distance, 2 object. Select the body once again. Now we have done like what we mostly need for extrudes. We're gonna we need that sketch once more. We're gonna hide the sketch for the circle body. We get away with the profile. We only have the body here. So now we're gonna do our pattern. S of the keyboard and find rectangular pattern. We can do it of a feature. It needs to be a feature, and that's the last extrude. Directions is gonna be the 2 lines we have here. We're gonna switch over to spacing, and the spacing, of course, gonna be the hexagon width plus the hexagon wall, like that. And I'm now gonna see if I can do Control A, Control C for copy, and I'm gonna put the same distance down here. So you see where we are coming? Yes, we're moving on. Quantity, here I'm gonna make a small equation. I'm going to need to round the number. I'm going to round it up. So I'm going to do ceiling for the radius divided by parentheses. That's going to be the same as the distance we had earlier. So we're going to do the hexagon width plus the hexagon wall, end parenthesis, end parenthesis, end parenthesis, one too many. And by doing that, we did a calculation on how many hexagons we can get from the center point out to the outer radius. So I'm going to make too many. You can adjust this by adding or doing floor or seal. Seal will round up, C-E-I-L, floor will round down. So this creates too many hexagons. You have to be careful if you're doing really big patterns. You might want to tinker with this a bit. But just going to show you, it's going to do Control A, Control C, and do the same here. And by doing that, we made a pattern that is extensively larger than the surface below. And this, the important part is the compute opposition adjust. That means Fusion will redo all these extrudes here. And normally when you do extrude, that is the part of the profile is outside of the target body, the extrude will fail. But within a pattern, it would also fail, but it will not cause an error. So we click OK. And Fusion does the cutouts, but only the one that are fully defined within this surface here. So that's much. S circular pattern. We're going to now do a circular pattern of features once again. It's going to be the last extrude and the rectangular pattern. And the axis is going to be any circular. You can just simply select the circle here. And we're going to do that 6 times, of course, because we're with hexagons. And here you can save Fusion sometime. In this case, depends on how your body looks like. In this case, the body is totally symmetrical here, so I can use optimize. This will pattern only the faces. If it wants to, we can do adjust here. Fusion needs to calculate every individual extrude here and see if it hits or not, and so forth. But I know these extrude I already done here are correct, so it simply needs to pattern the faces of these and do the cut. So optimized and hit OK. And wait for Fusion to do some thinking. Now I can highlight this, right click and do a remove, not delete, remove a surface body. And I can hide the sketch. And we are down to our little beautiful thing here. So now modify, change parameters. Now we can start to tinker with things. So I really wanted smaller. As I said, I wanted a low amount of instances. Started with this should really be 5 millimeters. So let's do them 5 millimeters and wait for Fusion to do a recalculation without crashing. Yes, we now have hexagons on the face. You can see the pattern looks more like a snowflake and stuff. You're going to change how we do things. We can do 1 millimeter walls. And of course, you can edit the sketch, creating the surface part, which we have here. We can do that in here. Let's see, that must be that sketch. We have an offset here. Let's change that to -5 and just click somewhere outside. This means the hexagon should be moved to more towards the middle. Yes. Oh, I need it -8. Tinkering with parameters fun. Like that. And as always, don't forget to save your progress as you're working. If you make a really large patterns, it can fail in the most horrible ways for you and crash everything. So this is a workflow for making hexagons, full hexagon or partial hexagon, and making parametric and play around with it. So hope you can use it for something fun. Take care, and please leave a comment if you use it. It's nice to know if my knowledge is used for something fun. Take care, see you around, and goodbye.